Fact vs. Fiction: To Kill a Mockingbird. Both the book and movie take place in Macomb, Alabama in the 1930s. Macomb is a fictional place but perfectly portrays what it's like living in a southern town in the 1930s. The themes displayed in this story include racism, hypocrisy, innocence, youth, justice, equality, morality, and femininity. The story is about a young girl named Scout who learns that her hometown is not as perfect as she had always believed. Scout's father, Atticus, is selected to defend a black man in court. The defendant, Tom Robinson, was accused of rape by Bob and Mayella Ewell, two members of a very uneducated family that cheat the system to continue living their lazy lifestyle. Atticus notes that he must defend Tom Robinson as best as he can despite the almost inevitable verdict and judgment he will receive from the citizens of Macomb. Meanwhile, Scout and her brother Jem are growing up and maturing while they experience the effect of their father's decision. Movie and book versus historical facts. In the novel, the Ku Klux Klan is not really seen as a threat, and Atticus downplays the possibility of the Klan being involved in the case. Although, at one point a few men did go to the jail with intentions to kill Tom Robinson, no harm came to Tom because Atticus and the children protected him. In reality, the Ku Klux Klan was still very active in the South in the 1930s. The Vigilante Act of lynching was still practiced, and if a black man was accused of taking advantage of a woman, that man's life would be in danger. In Alabama, there was a law that made lynching an illegal act, and by 1935, lynchings were no longer tolerated by the general public. In the book, law enforcement warns Atticus of a lynching mob. Atticus and a citizen of Macomb protect Tom Robinson from the mob, which demonstrates its intolerance for these vigilante acts. The fictional town of Macomb is in a state of economic decline, just like a lot of the country in the 1930s. The economic boom in the 1920s came to a rapid halt when the stock market crashed in 1929. The next decade was doomed to mass unemployment and poverty. To Kill a Mockingbird demonstrates this type of poverty with the Cunninghams. The Cunninghams are so poor that they did not have enough money to pay Atticus to be their lawyer. They paid Atticus with produce like hickory nuts and turnip greens. The Cunninghams were farmers and were hardest hit by the Great Depression. The WPA was one of President Roosevelt's New Deal programs. The Works Progress Administration is brought up when Scout says he was the only man I ever heard of who was fired from the WPA for laziness. She is referring to Bob Ewell, who was a drunk, poor man who relied on welfare. The WPA was a work relief program that employed over 8.5 million people to build bridges, roads, public buildings, parks, and airports. Movie versus book. Some differences between the book and the movie include that in the movie, Mrs. Dubois was not mentioned and the important lesson about strength is not included. Another two characters that were not in the movie are Aunt Alexandra and Uncle Jack. In the movie, certain events are portrayed differently. For example, Tom's death in the book occurs while Tom is trying to escape the jail and was shot 17 times. In the movie, Tom is killed by prison guards on the way to jail. Another event left out by the movie was when Scout and Jem went to Calpurnia's church and when Miss Maudie's house burned down. In the movie, the court tells how Tom's arm was deformed in an accident. In the book, Reverend Syke tells Jem, Scout, and Dill how it happened separately. In the movie, Dill is Miss Stephanie Crawford's nephew, not Miss Rachel's. In the movie, Jem goes with Atticus to tell the Robinsons that Tom is dead. In the book, Calpurnia goes with him. Another difference between the book and the movie includes small details such as when the African American people enter the courtroom. In the movie, they enter at the same time and sit in separate sections. In the book, the African Americans must wait until everyone else has entered the courtroom.
She did something that in our society is unspeakable. She kissed a black man, not an old uncle, but a strong, young Negro man. No code mattered to her before she broke it, but it came crashing down on her afterwards. The witnesses for the state, with the exception of the sheriff of Macomb County, have presented themselves to you gentlemen, to this court, in the cynical